Yeah, all right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So a couple of quick kind of technical and other things before we dive into the chapter proper here. So unfortunately, for some reason, I assume because it is this chapter, Viz's website seems to be temporarily down. They seem to be having some kind of technical issues. So unfortunately, I can't access the chapter via the Viz's website like I usually do. And unfortunately, my tablet is completely out of battery as well. So I can't really use that as a device to kind of use to read the chapter either. So I kind of quickly rigged up my phone in a setup that hopefully will make it a little bit easier. I'm going to be watching it through there. So we'll see what happens with that. With that said, I also did, unfortunately, despite the one benefit of being a fandom pariah being that I usually am pretty insulated from spoilers, I unfortunately did get spoiled on that big reveal in this chapter because a bunch of people thought they were being super clever about hiding their spoilers, and so it unfortunately leaked through Twitter's shitty ass algorithm and onto my feed. And those people were not nearly as clever as they thought they were at hiding and fake out hinting at whatever the hell they're hinting at. So that's one unfortunate thing. But whatever, we'll talk about that when I get to it. That said, as per normal, I will go through Wano stuff today. And hopefully by next week, I'll be able to do a live stream before Chapter 1000 drops. So that's going to be the big warning. Anyone that is a One Piece fan, if you do not want to be spoiled for Chapter 1000, I highly recommend muting, blocking, doing whatever you have to do now. If you have to stay off the internet, I'd recommend staying off the internet as well, because I'm hearing rumors Chapter 1000 scans will drop around Christmas. So if you don't want to be spoiled, if you want to be insulated, stay off here as much as you can. Otherwise, it is probably going to be spoiled. Because Chapter 999 was trending a couple of days ago before the official release even dropped, which is how I got spoiled. So for Chapter 1000, people are going to be way more obnoxious about it. So just fair warning to avoid that. With that all finally said, let us get into One Piece Chapter 999, the sake I brewed to drink with you. Looks like we're getting Yamato Ace flashback, which gotta admit I was ambivalent about, but we'll see if I can be swayed. As usual, we have translation by Stephen Paul, lettering by Vanessa Satone. So we have Stop Ace, let's go back! And you see, who are you? Name yourself! And you see Yamato and Ace clashing as Yamato goes, I was like, you go first! And you see Ace doing his fire fist, which Yamato blocks with his club. As you have, I'm Ace, I've come here to take Kaito's head. Still dumb. And you see Yamada going, my father and his men are on an expedition. You won't find a single officer on the island. And Ace is like, father? And you see, that's Kaito's daughter? And you see Ace has some kind of weird-ass lion on his crew. It's got some kind of weird cat. You see some of the other crew. I'm sure that the Ace knowledge probably covered who they are. I do not know any of them. Don't particularly care. And one of the men comments, that's Kaito's daughter? And you see Yamato looking all angrily over at them. You see that a bunch of... Is that a cyborg that's lying there? Or is that one of Ace's crew? But you see someone else looks like it's lying in a gas mask. You see a bunch of other Kaito's other goons having all been beaten up as Ace just smashed his way into Onigashima. And you have, surely you've had enough violence for now. Not that I have any obligation to protect this island. And you see Ace looking down as he sees the cuffs around Yamato's wrist. And you have his crew going, shall we go, Ace? Let's go back to the mainland. The families of these abducted children are waiting. And you see a bunch of kids be like, thank you, as they bow to Ace and his crew. And Ace goes, doesn't make sense that someone this powerful isn't the captain. It's like, I want to settle this. And Yamato goes, I am Yamato. I've been sitting around bored anyway. I'll be your opponent. And you see, Rah-da-ya! As they clash again. And you see on the next page, Ace going, You can't choose your father, Yamato. Ha, ha. So you hate your old man that much? It's like, forget about the cuffs. Why do you let him chain your heart, too? I'm sorry, such a cheesy line. I'm betting the Ace Yamato shippers are loving this, though. Like, I'm fully expecting to see a bunch of Yamato Ace fan art on my TL. Like, people are going to be shipping these two hard. And you see, no, young Master Yamato, don't! That's a symbol of Master Kaido's power! And you see Yamato's the one that knocked down the dragon statue with a blow from his club. As he goes, I wish I could leave too. I want to sail out to sea and go on adventures. Sorry. I want to go sail out to sea and go on adventures. I want to live as free as Oden did. Oda's really pushing the Yamato for Straw Hat buttons, huh? And you have Ace going, huh? Whoop, there we go. You have Ace going, hey, that's the spirit, Yamato. And he smashes a fire fist into Kaido's statue as well. You have a huh? And you see later that night, wah ha ha ha, da ha 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 ha, as they're clinking some sake bottles together and drinking and making merry. And Ace goes, such a shame when we get along so well like this. Yamato goes, if I ever get these off, I swear, I'll go out to sea too. And he's like, what's it like out there? Are there lots of young folks making a name for themselves? And he's like, young folks? Well, there's this Kevin something guy. People are talking about him, I guess. He's like, I'm on a level of my own, of course, but I hear about guys tearing things up on the other seas. Kid in the south, Law in the north, Bej in the west. And you see Yamato all excited like a little kid. And then Ace just tips his hat. He's like, but the toughest one of all of them won't be setting sail for a few years yet. My little brother. He's going to be massive, trust me. And Yamato goes, how many times are you going to mention your brother? He's like, as many times as I want. It's all true. He's like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. He's like, ow, ow. As you see a wham. And Yamato goes, the truth about this dragon statue is, I broke it first, but then he said, this is a warning to Kaido until the next time I show up here. My father was furious, but he never saw Ace in person. And Momo was like, there was a pirate who was trying to save Wano? Like, at this point, after meeting Luffy, he's like, why is this a surprise? And you have him going, wait, father? It's like, yeah, Kaido's my father. Momo does this freak on, slams his back into a crate as Shinobu just goes rolling away. Yamato's like, give me a second here. Sorry, just gotta answer something. As he goes, whoa, Yamato's like, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that. But don't worry, I hate him. I told you I'm Oden, right? Alright, so that it makes even less sense. And you see, I believe I understand the story now. I appreciate your help. It's like, stop being shy and come over here. And you see them both just kind of hiding out of sight. But why would you tell us about that man? Ace died 2 years ago. And Yamato's like, oh, I didn't know. You see, he was... Oh my god, why is he doing like this bullshit? Like, oh, you see, let me build suspense about what Yamato's going to say. Unless it's going to be Oda kind of going full hog and going like, Yamato was my lover, or Ace was my lover. I do not care for this bullshit. Let me suspend the mystery around it. I feel like the reveal is going to be Yamato just saying like Ace was my best friend or something, but neither here nor there. And you see back on the Koma Inu, yep, that's right. I believed in Ace. And that's why I've been working to be a Kunoichi. But big bro Luffy couldn't give me the bad news gently. He's got no delicacy. And Hami's like, I'm sorry. That's just what he's like, though. And you see, Tama, that event was really painful for Luffy, too. And she's like, huh? And you see back on the performance floor inside the dome, you have, stop Marco, stop him right now. Don't let him get away with this. Yeah, but he saved our lives. You want Master Queen to kill us? And you have a rah as all the goons start rushing Marco. And he goes, look, I'm not going right after Kaido at this point. And you see Nico Robin, Bone Man, run into the castle. And they're like, we will. It's like, if you insist, and Brooke and Robin take off. So I guess Robin's going to have to make her own way up. And you have, I got him, Marco the Phoenix is mine. He's like, ah. And you have Marco going, you ready? Someone's sword has just gone straight through his skull. And Zoro's like, let's go. And you see him going into his full Phoenix forms as he takes off, scattering all of the goons. And Queen goes, hey, he's carrying one of Straw Hat's guys. And Zoro's like, nice view. And you see, oh my God, Marco flashing back to going, please, Pops. It's like, no, you idiot. It's like, how many times have I told you, Ace? You know who used to be the 2nd Division commander before you, and why the position was unfilled for so long. And Izo goes, we only learned of Lord Oden's death several years after it happened. And you see Marco eating his namesake as he eats a pineapple. And he goes, we considered moving on Wano many times, but never did in the end. Could you imagine what would happen and how many would lose their lives? And he's like, let me go on my own. I made a promise. And Whitebeard just lashes out at him as he goes, you think you can vanquish the man that Kozuki Oden could not? Don't be conceited, Ace. And you see, whoa, as Ace leaps out of the way. And you see young Blackbeard going, Zay, ha ha ha. And Oden was plenty tough. I get one to take out a big shot, though, Commander Ace. And he's like, shut up, Teach. Ace isn't doing this to hunt down big shots. And he's like, damn it, I can't keep my promise if I don't get stronger. That's just how heavy a promise you're bearing on your shoulders. And Izo goes, if Pops ever gives you the go-ahead, send me an invitation, Ace. Marco's like, yeah, I'd be interested too. And Ace is like, in that case, I bet we could win already. I'm like, what's your basis for suggesting that? And you see God's sakes. Give me a second, sorry. My phone seems to have lost the connection. So annoying. All right, I'm just going to read it off my phone because it just shut down now. And honestly, it's just really annoying trying to open it up again. Let's see if it'll do it. There we go. All right, back on the screen. When you see Marco doing as he sheds a little tear and he flies up into the sky, and you see Marco as you have both King and Queen in their dinosaur forms. As Queen goes, don't assume you can just fly right past us. All of those samurai are surely dead. You have lead performer Queen, Dragon Fruit, ancient type Brachiosaurus model. And you have a King going, and once Kozuki Oden's son is dead, this battle is over. You have lead performer King, Dragon Fruit, ancient type Pterodon model. Marco goes, he goes, if you really, you're pitting yourselves against the new generation. See Queen going, shut up, you. And you see him just opening his mouth, a chunk as a gun just pops out. And he just starts shooting at Marco, who, of course, is completely unfazed as the Phoenix form protects him. And the bullets just graze right through him. And you go back to Tama going, what? Big bro Luffy's Ace brother? It's like, then I touched a really sore spot for him. You have Tama just doing her expression face, tears streaming down her eyes. And Nami goes, don't worry. If he was upset, he would have told you. More importantly, let's do that plan of yours. And you go back to the storeroom with, huh? So he was Roger's son and Luffy's brother? Is this true? And Yamato's like, you're the ones who brought Luffy here to Wano, aren't you? It's like, yes, indeed. Out of all the pirates as numerous as stars in the sky, you happened to meet him and brought him to this country. I can only consider that an act of fate. After all, Luffy's name has the letter D in the middle. And you see Yamato pulling out Oden's busted-ass, janky-looking journal. And we have on the roof of Onigashima, yeah! I was like, yummy flames! And you see that Zeus is back to full form as he's formed into a giant lightning cloud again. He goes, my stomach is full and crackling too. I'm all recharged. Big Mom goes, ha, 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 ma. So Straw Hat's not here yet? It's like, hey, Kaido, kill as many of them as you want, but leave Nico Robin alive. You see Big Mom riding on Zeus, Prometheus off to the side as Kaido's just sitting on the rubble, taking a drink. And you have, what? Can't that three eyes of yours read the ancient writing? Big Mom's like, you mean pudding? Who knows? I can't wait around for her true eye to awaken. Where are you going to put this island down? And he goes, there is a castle in the flower capital that stands as the symbol of Kozuki. And Big Mom goes, Mama, Mama, aren't they having a festival now? That's a lot of deaths. He goes, not a problem. It's easy to get more slaves. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll make a nice capital. And you see, oh, it'll make a nice capital. Big Mom goes, so your road poneglyph isn't there? And he goes, it's too early to be showing your hand, no? And now we get to the reveal that I got spoiled on. Big Mom goes, hey, don't insult me. It's not like that. I still think of you like a little brother. On the day rocks fell into ruin at God Valley, I gave you that legendary model of the fish fruit. You owe me for life, Kaido. He goes, whatever you say. We can talk after we get it. The One Piece, that is. Dun, dun, dun. The next chapter hits January 3rd. So, all right. As entertaining as that chapter was, Oda could not have made it more obvious unless he put like a huge glowing neon sign in front of it with the big bright letters saying like filler chapter. Like this chapter was so obviously like just padded out with extraneous stuff just so Oda could set up whatever the hell he set for chapter 1000, which honestly is making me look forward to it even less now because of how much kind of bullshit he packed into this one. But whatever, we'll go through it as usual, front to back, with thoughts and everything else like that. So, like I said, I was pretty ambivalent about getting the Ace Yamato flashback. I wasn't particularly keen on seeing them interacting or, seeing their camaraderie or whatever. And it does feel a little bit rushed, like how quickly it's just like, the whole men speak with their fist crap that Oda had going on. Like it felt very, very rushed and a little bit forced, but honestly, whatever. Ace is kind of like one of those weird characters where I really liked him, up to his death and even with the flashback stuff. But now seeing him kind of just shoehorned into other arcs to kind of like tie in, I guess, as an emotional connection to characters that Luffy's meeting, it doesn't really hit with the same impact because I think how Oda handled Ace's story specifically. And because it's been, what, like 400 chapters now? Christ, almost 400 chapters since we've actually like last seen Ace. Like nostalgia itself isn't really gonna spark the emotional connection I think Oda thought it would. So that's why to me a lot of this felt kind of really flat going into this. I guess we get a little bit more of Kaido's background, or not Kaido's background, Yamato's background with everything else, which was fine and entertaining. Which kind of guess brings me to the second point. Like Oda's really, really trying to push the button for everyone that's kind of riding the Ace, or not Ace. God, my brain is so dead today. The Yamato 4 Straw Hat theory. Like Oda's definitely trying to at least, what's the word I'm looking for? Oda's not at least like, Oda's not like making, but why is my brain so dead today? Oda is kind of just making sure that everyone's kind of understanding that he's really hinting towards that as a possibility. Is it actually possible? Is Yamada going to join the crew? I'm of two minds of this, and I might go into this more in depth when I do my chapter 1000 video. Like, design wise, yeah, like, I wouldn't mind Yamato joining the crew. He's got a unique design and personality and everything else thus far. So it would be a nice addition to the crew compared to, Carrot, who's kind of like the popular front runner right now. But I still want a definitive answer for what the hell Oda's going for with this whole, I am Kozuki Oden thing, because it's still kind of bugging me a little bit, like how much he's harping on this and like going for it. And I don't want it to end up being a twist reveal at the end where it's gonna be Yamato being like, oh, now that Kaido's defeated, I can be my own person and all that. But yeah, I'll probably go in deeper thoughts about that in my pre-chapter 1000 video. That said, like going out to sea and finding freedom is kind of a very nebulous dream, which doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't really fit in with the other Straw Hats, because Usopp also has kind of like an intangible dream of being like, oh, I want to be a brave warrior of the sea, which doesn't really have a concrete kind of end goal that you can achieve where you can kind of claim like, oh, now that I've like, unlike say Sanji's or Luffy's or whatever, we have a concrete end goal they have to kind of reach for their dream to be achieved. Or even like Nami, who's like, I have to draw a map of the world. That's something concrete and tangible you can achieve. There are some other Straw Hat dreams where it's a little bit more intangible what they want to do. So yeah, Yamato's whole like, I just want to be free, I want to sail out to sea, could fit into that, but it could also just indicate that Yamato at the end of Wano will just go out to sea by himself, and join the Grand Fleet at some point. Both are kind of a 50-50 possibility right now. So I have to see how the rest of the arc plays out before I think we can definitively say one way or the other which is going to go. The kid, like the whole kidnapped kids thing, I was thinking about this earlier because I was rereading some of one earlier to try to set up for the pre 1000 video. And I know there was like that one weird throwaway line from Kaido at the very start when he first shows up over, what was it, Okabore Town? And he tells Jax, like, oh, Jack, is like, bring those kids to me. And I was wondering if there was something Oda was going to do with that. But I kind of just dismissed the possibility because there wasn't really anything more set up for it. It seemed like such a throwaway line. So seeing it brought back now made me wonder if there is something more to it. But thinking back, it's most likely that the kids are probably just being sent to Caesar on Punk Hazard so he can do his gigantification experiments. We'll probably get confirmation of that at some point, but that's the most likely thing. Oda could be trying to go for something else with it, but highly doubtful this late into the arc, but we'll see. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know why Oda's doing this bullshit teasing of like Mato being like, oh, Ace was he was my like, unless, like I said, unless it's gonna end up being Yamato saying Ace was my lover, I do not give a shit. The anticipation of me waiting to see the reveal is gonna be like, oh, Ace was my best friend or my only friend or something, is not worth how much Oda's trying to build it up. So just like Oda, you need to lay off with the stupid mystery cock teasing. It does not as effective as you think it is in like heightening anticipation. It really isn't. Excited for the big 1000. I was hoping I was going to be like, I was hoping like 999 would like whet my appetite for 1000. Like we finally see Luffy and Zoro like up on the roof and like have a clash with Kaido, which now seems like it's more likely going to be like the possibility that 1000 is going to end with like them facing off on the roof, which again is like, I don't give a shit, man. Just let me see the conflict so I can finally see whether they're going to actually fail and I can temper my expectations accordingly, or if they're going to succeed. And again, I can temper my expectations accordingly. But like that's why I said this is a filler, and I don't mean filler in the sense of, that this wasn't anything plot relevant happening, that none of this was canon to the storyline or nothing like that. I'm just saying like, oh, this was a chapter of Oda trying to wrap up a bunch of the BS plot holes he had built into the story. I'll kind of get to that at the point because I want to make a comment about that with regards to one of the big twists in the Wano arc as a whole. Tama, man, like Tama is also kind of like the wild card where I'm like a little bit wary about what her role is going to be going forward, especially with Nami mentioning her plan, because we know with her Kibidango things that she can take control of the what is it, the gifters. So, that could kind of swing the battle in the favor of the Straw Hats, where Tama with Usopp's sniping skills and Nami using like her illusion powers to kind of like disguise them so they can't see it, could very easily just start rapid firing her Kibi dongos into the gifters' mouths, turning them to their side, kind of turning the tide of the battle for the Straw Hats themselves. I don't know if I particularly care for that as a thing. So, like I said, we'll see how it goes. God, I hope. Let me quickly check if this site is back yet, so I don't have to keep kind of like putting my phone back and forth on, or else I'll have to do this. Like it had to be up, nope, still down. Of course, nope. Still working on it, so I'm gonna read from my phone while this is going on again. Uh, Queen continues to be like the most pathetic threat I think we've ever had in this series. Like for someone that's supposed to be, or at least expected to be kind of a serious roadblock or powerhouse of Kaido's crew, thus far he has just been a walking joke. And I'm a little bit disappointed that Oda isn't even like trying to like uphold his threat status. He's just like, no, no, no. He's a fat guy. He's just there for the humor so far. I'm really hoping he's going to do something to kind of turn around, and make up for his reputation. But thus far, he's been kind of the biggest letdown in this arc, and I didn't have like any expectations for him, and it's kind of disappointing to see even that low bar not being met for the thing. But yeah, I'll talk about this at the end of the chapter once I cover everything else related to Zoro specifically, because my prediction of this chapter didn't end up coming true with Zoro ending up on the roof. So probably going to see that happen in the next chapter. So I'll kind of comment on that at the end with what his role is going to be, because I know there's a lot of debate on forums regarding this. Like, oh, is Zoro's opponent going to be King, or is Marco going to be taking on King, and is Zoro going to go help Luffy take out Kaido? I know there's a lot of debate around this, so we'll talk about that. Which brings us to the Whitebeard plot hole. I know a lot of people wondering this, like, why didn't Whitebeard ever do anything for Oden? Was it because news couldn't come out of Wano, stuff like that? And Oda kind of trying to explain it away as like Whitebeard being like, oh, he didn't want to start a conflict since Oden was dead. Like people will die and everything. Like Whitebeard went to war with the Marines for Ace, and he didn't really seem to be worried about like casualties then. So like for him, after all the freaking hype around Oden in the flashback and how much Whitebeard was like, oh, Oden's my bro, oh, he's the greatest, I love this guy so much, like, oh, he made me love samurai and all that, and how annoyed he was when Roger took him away from his crew, like poached him. And he's just like, oh, how dare that guy betray me. He's like, oh, I'm so mad. And for him to be like, yeah, Oden died. Oh, that's really sad. Oh man, whoa. My friend died. Oh no. Oh, I'm mad at Kaido, but I guess I can't do anything because I don't want people to die. Like I've been trying to think of the word that best describes how this makes me feel. And I think naive is kind of the best one to settle on. It's like this is the one thing I don't get about like One Piece as a whole. When people try to talk about, how serious it is and how nuanced it is and how it tackles all these weighty topics. And then you have Oda's, kind of weird penchant where he's like, oh, when he mentioned like in interviews years and years and years ago how he doesn't like death in his series because his grandmother once told him that it wasn't nice to have people die or something, and he wanted to like treat it seriously and all that. And yet, he goes around kind of making light of it by having, these characters suffer grievous injuries and then be like, oh, they're fine, don't worry about it, or doing these stupid death fake outs. And it really has diminished kind of the emotional resonance impact of a lot of scenes like this. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any heft or wait to Whitebeard's kind of thought that, I don't want to do this because there's going to be sacrifices to be made. Like, it really just feels like Oda was like, oh no, I've written myself into a loophole. And this was what I was going to mention before I forget. I think the reason for that is like, this is not something I can really like confirm or say definitively, but it's a feeling that I've had ever since we got this specific plot point. I feel like Oda did the whole, 20 years jump into the future bullshit because he thought, oh, it'd be so surprising, like no one's gonna predict this. And he thought it'd be a really cool plot point. And ever since then, it seems like he's been trying to write himself out of it. Like he's introduced this plot point of the time travel. And ever since then, he's been trying to kind of write his way out of it, like write away all these plot holes he's done. And this was a very specific thing that annoyed me about Oden's flashback specifically, which was when Oden did his whole dumbass, dancing stuff. And it was kind of romanticized as being like, oh, Oden's doing this. He's being so self sacrificial. Like, oh, the people of Wano don't know what he's doing for their greater good and everything like that. And I didn't like it specifically because at the end we find out that Oden gave Toki the letters where he's like, oh, in 20 years someone's going to come to this island to save us. Oh, we have to wait till then because that'll be the dawn of Wano and all that crap. And the thing is, like, we're supposed to believe that he was doing, the thing for the greater good. Where he's like, my dancing will save a few lives, if not all of them. And, that's kind of enough. Except it's kind of bullshit because there's people still suffering on Wano because of his inability to take action. And it wasn't that he wasn't willing to take action to kind of take down Kaido, because as soon as someone he personally knew was finally affected by, Orochi's little weapons making operation, everything like that, that was finally when Oden's like, oh man, like, now enough is enough. Like, now I can't take it anymore. Ignoring the other multitudes of people that were suffering in Wano, and he's kind of just like, oh, my hands are tied. I can't do anything, people. I can't do anything. And so, like, I hate this idea of he's just like, oh, I'm just chucking off all responsibility because I have to wait the 20 years because I can't do anything now. It's all fate. Like, oh, I can't go against fate and bullshit like that. It's the same feeling I get from Whitebeard, like this, what's the word I'm looking for? Where he doesn't want to, accept responsibilities, kind of trying to kick the can down the road, and kind of be like, it's kind of like gives me the same vibes as, let future Whitebeard deal with that. I don't want to deal with this now. I don't want to have to make these hard decisions. So I'm just going to let future Whitebeard deal with it. And like, I wish we saw more of the nuances with regards to that in the series rather than kind of just it being used as an excuse and kind of like upholding the idea that they're doing good or like fighting for the greater good and all that. But yeah, it's something I went on a tangent about. Maybe something I'll address in a future chapter or a future video review thing. But it's just terrible writing to kind of close a plot hole. That said, King and Queen, again, we're getting a rehash of their dinosaur forms, the names. I don't know, like, did Oda think we'd forgotten that what their dinosaur forms were like? I know it's been like 20 chapters or so since we last saw it, but I don't think anyone really forgot what their dinosaur forms were like. Queen, like, here's the other, like, the dinosaur, like, Queen popping a literal gun out of his mouth. On the one hand, I'm like, all right, cyborgs, like a cyborg, Queen being like a semi-cyborg who's kind of upgraded himself with the metal arms and everything, being like a scientist, could have made him a potentially really intriguing character for both Chopper and Frankie to kind of play off of against. I don't know if I actually mentioned this on my Twitter at some point. This might be, again, it's something I addressed on my Chapter 1000 video, specifically with kind of like storylines Oda could have developed for these characters. But instead, like, Queen's whole thing is like, he has a gun out of his mouth is used for like a quick cheap shot and then it's just like forgotten about. So I don't know. Like I wish Oda would do more of the Queen because it looks like he has the potential to be more compelling and interesting rather than ha ha ha. He's just the butt of a joke. But honestly, Mystic commented, should have just kept it a plot hole. Like, honestly, I don't think anyone at this point was really asking for an explanation for why Whitebeard didn't show up. Like, I don't think anyone would have complained if we'd gotten to the end of Wano and didn't know why Whitebeard didn't show up. Like, this is worse than the amnesia plot hole that he did for Sabo, where it's like, oh, Sabo had amnesia. Like, he really should have just kept this in the drafts, but honestly, like this is what I'm saying. It's filler. Like Oda's like, I have to pad this with something. I can't get to the chapter 1000 stuff. He has like, I know, random Whitebeard flashback explaining stuff. Just pop it in there for no reason. Like it's it's so weird for Marco in the middle of a battle where serious shit is supposed to be going down, and he's like carrying Zoro up and like trying to dodge like these supposedly two big powerhouses that are stopping him trying to get to the roof. Where he's like, "Oh, hey, remember that guy Ace that died 2 years ago? Oh, let me just think back fondly about him right now for no reason. Like, there's nothing that sparked this sudden remembrance for Ace. Marco's just like, yeah, I just casually think about Ace every now and then when I'm too preoccupied. It just helps clear my mind. Like it's just I don't want to be super negative, like pick on Oda for this, but it's just annoying when it's so obvious what he's trying to do. Again, Tama, like funny faces, all right. Like I don't care. Just give her something to do that makes it more interesting. Wonder if Yamato's actually just gonna start like reading from the journal to Momo. I don't think that Oda's big reveal for chapter 1000 is gonna be like him actually explaining what the Will of D is. If he is, I'm willing to take that back. That would be potentially an epic kind of reveal for chapter 1000. It would make it more momentous, but honestly, it's one of those I can take it or leave it things. Mystic's like, when your opponent is queen, you have the time to do that. That's the thing. Like, I'll talk about it at the end. But if the raid really does succeed at this point, like Kaido and his goons will, maybe Kaido aside, look, once we get his full thing, Kaido and his goons will literally go down as the least compelling villains in all of One Piece. And that is like a major, major feat to be one of the least compelling villains in the entire series. Major feat. That said, like, yeah, we got the fluff again with Big Bomb being like, okay, I'm back to full power again. Which brings us, I guess, the pudding storyline. So I know a lot of fans really do buy into the idea that there is a three-eyed race in the One Piece universe, and we are going to find out the reveal that they are able to read the ancient texts or whatever. They're going to have like some kind of psychic power. I know a lot of people have been speculating that the three-eyed race potentially lived at God Valley, and they're going to tie into the story somehow once we get that flashback. I'm still firmly in the camp of putting Mate up the whole bullshit about the three-eyed race being able to read poneglyphs because that gave her better treatment from Big Mom. So I'm still in the camp of putting just manipulated Big Mom's memories, mess around with it to make it seem like she has this mystical power just so Big Mom would give her preferential treatment. I don't really think it's gonna be the reveal that there is a three-eyed race that can do it. It would feel a little bit hokey if that was the case to be like, oh well, this three-eyed mystical race somehow has the same power that Momo has or that Roger has to be like hear the voice of all things and like all tuned to it and everything. Like it would feel like a weird thing to come out of left field when we know that there's other people who can sense or read the poneglyphs, and especially when you have a character like Robin in the series, it doesn't really make sense to be like, oh well, there's a sudden other race to kind of do the thing. But which brings us to the other kind of aspect of that, which is Big Mom saying, "All right, don't kill Robin. We need her to read the poneglyphs," because I theorized about this, I don't know how many years ago. I think I even wrote about it in one of the editorials I did for the One Piece podcast. But this was back when I thought the arc would play out over a longer period of time than it is right now. And I had speculated back then that, either Robin would translate the poneglyph rubbings, and do it either as a trade-off to barter for Momo or for the Straw Hats' lives or something, or maybe even trade herself, to one of the competing crews, whether it's either Kaido or Blackbeard, as a barter thing. I wasn't super thrilled about the idea of like Robin again being a damsel in distress, like the Straw Hats having to chase her and try to get her back. Again, I liked more the idea that they would just to translate the rubbings, which would kind of level the playing field for everyone that is kind of vying for the Pirate King role, which would make it a little bit more easier to handle. So we'll see how that's going to play out. Because last week I kind of commented like, oh yeah, like because Kaido had said that his new Onigashima plan involves him going to um, like enslaving the population of the flower capital. I know a lot of people are speculating, well, he's just going to go drop the skull on top of the Mount Fujiyama in the background of the Wano flower capital, because it doesn't make sense for him to go drop it literally on the capital and then kill a bunch of, you know, potential uh, slaves, like whatever, workers for his little mine thing. But it seems like that is his current plan. Is just fuck it. I'm gonna go drop it on the giant tree in front of Wano, crush a bunch of people, and just kill them all for some reason. So I guess it's now back to the possibility of Onigashima being dropped onto the flower capital, being the bird cage of this arc, where they have to, defeat Kaido or whatever before he manages to get to the capital. I don't know if I still buy that as being the possibility. I think that's a red herring. I still think that the actual, like, bird cage of the arc will literally be dawn breaking over Wano. Like, as soon as the sun rises, I feel like that's still going to be when the arc reaches its conclusion. But I'll dive in depth more into those ideas in my pre 1000 video. That said, like, there's still two ways I could see, circumstances kind of changing a little bit. One is still the idea I have that Zoro ends up losing control of Enma and he ends up slicing off chunks of the skull or slicing in half. I still do think that's a possibility. The other one I'd considered, and that's something we haven't seen touched on for a good number of chapters now, is what the hell Hirochi's deal is, because he's still not dead, but we haven't gotten any updates yet on where he is, if he's gotten back up, what his plans are, things like that. So the other way I could see it happening is Orochi's not going to let Kaido drop, his skull on the Flower Capital. So if he does manage to get his battleship, or if he already has and he's just been keeping it hidden, I could see Orochi bombarding the skull to try and shoot it down as well before it touches down on Onigashima. But there's still a lot of balls in the air right now. It could really go one way or the other. Still too many loose ends that could kind of go in a bunch of different ways. So we're gonna have to see what shape 1000 takes, I think, before definitively landing on one side or the other. But yeah, like I said, I'll try to touch on as much of these possibilities and ideas as I can on my pre 1000 video next week. With that said, there's one final little thing, one final little tidbit I want to touch upon before I wrap up this video, and that is the Jump Fest news that came out this year. I think I saw the comments were floating around this morning sometime, which is Oda apparently commented at this week's Jump Fest, yeah, the usual get excited for chapter 1000, yada, yada, yada. And then he basically hinted at the fact that Shanks is going to be moving at some point, which has gotten, a bunch of people super excited. So I dug up my old tweets because I had tweets from 2, 3 years ago where I speculated that Shanks might show up to Wano as a cavalry of sorts. So that should be an interesting other potential kind of additional force that might show up on the island. So again, I'll kind of address that in my Chapter 1000 video because Oda, I think at last year's Jump Fest also said, had was hinting at some mystery around Sabo, Vivi, and Hancock, and before even that, he said like all the Grand Fleet's going to be involved in some big incident pretty soon. So, given the glacial pace he's kind of moving at, I wouldn't expect the Shanks thing to actually happen in 2021 unless we get Act 3 break and Wano really is going to be 5 acts. But like I said, a lot of loose ends. So we'll see what happens. Just to comment, my boy Teagle from Alita is more threatening than Queen. Honestly, yeah, like Teagle is a good example though, like where you have this doofy looking character who had who became vastly more compelling and interesting and sympathetic in like the span of a few pages than all the work Oda has done with Queen in like hundreds of chapters. Like it's amazing the vast discrepancy in like how they've handled it. But honestly, the character's such a joke. I don't even know if Oda can rescue him at any point the way he's written in. But like I said, we'll see. I've got a lot of kind of topics and things I want to touch on, so I'm gonna start making up a list for that for next week. As usual, thank you everyone for tuning in for the last triple digit chapter of One Piece before we get into the quadruple digits in 2 weeks. Like I mentioned at the start, anyone that does not want to get spoiled, start muting, blocking now. Do whatever you have to do to protect yourselves because the chapters, the scans and the spoilers will most likely be dropping early this week, and by late this week, by Thursday, Friday, I expect we'll see full spoiler scan pages out, and I fully expect One Piece Chapter 1000 to be trending. Yeah, so do be careful about that. I'll look forward to the stream next week. It's always a lot of fun to have everyone tune in for these videos. It really makes it worth it when I have to go through and slog through chapters like this. With that said, as usual, if you like my content, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm only 14 subs away from 150, and while it's looking more unlikely, I would really love to be able to meet that goal in 2020 and have something good come out of it. I expect a channel update sometime later today. Until next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.